Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever known someone who just couldn't stop talking to you? They replied to every single message, laughed at all your jokes, and always made plans. And then, bam, suddenly something just changes. The conversations get way shorter, that spark of excitement completely disappears. You start noticing they're taking longer and longer to reply, or maybe they just stop reaching out altogether. It's a deeply painful mystery when a super talkative, engaged person suddenly goes completely quiet. Since nothing obvious happened, this silence creates a profound sense of confusion. Today, we're going to unpack the hidden psychology behind this exact behavior, uncovering the truth step by step.
When staring at a phone with zero replies, the immediate reaction to this distant silence is almost always the exact same question. Have we done something wrong? It's completely natural to wonder if a mistake was made somewhere along the line, but psychology tells us that people rarely pull away for just one single reason. In fact, this explainer is going to reveal 5 hidden psychological reasons for this behavior, and pay close attention because that very last reason, it's something most people completely misunderstand.
So here is the roadmap for this explainer. We're going to act as psychological detectives to uncover the mystery of sudden silence, emotional burnout, the fading of emotional safety, the avoidant attachment style, the weight of unspoken resentment, and finally, life transitions and changing priorities. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The mystery of sudden silence and the illusion of the overnight change. Before getting into the specific reasons why someone pulls away, it's absolutely crucial to address the single biggest mistake made when analyzing this behavior.
We often hold on to this false belief that behavior just changes overnight. We think people suddenly wake up one random morning and decide, hey, time to become distant. But the psychological truth? Emotions fade quietly. Human emotions don't just flip like a light switch. Most of the time, small emotional changes are happening very quietly beneath the surface, way long before they are ever actually noticed. The distance really began growing far earlier than the exact moment those texts stopped.
Moving on to Section 2. Overwhelmed by emotional burnout, carrying the heavy backpack. This brings us to the first hidden reason for distant silence.
Sometimes, people don't pull away because of anything you did at all. They pull away because life itself has just become incredibly heavy. Think of it kind of like carrying an invisible backpack that gains more and more weight every single day. Think about what actually goes into that backpack. You've got work stress piling up, family problems demanding attention, financial pressure squeezing tight, and just general mental exhaustion setting in. After a while of carrying all these massive burdens, even sending a simple little text message feels like an overwhelming mountain of responsibility. It really isn't about you. It's about the crushing weight they're desperately trying to manage.
So what exactly is emotional burnout? Well, it happens when the brain becomes completely overwhelmed. To survive, the brain literally protects itself by reducing all unnecessary emotional effort. This results in fewer conversations, way less energy, and practically no enthusiasm, even with people they genuinely care about. From the outside looking in, it feels super personal, but from their perspective, they're literally just trying to survive emotionally. They simply lack the energy to explain their feelings.
Section 3. Fading of emotional safety, the slow loss of security. Now we're pivoting from external stress to a foundational element of healthy connections.
Sometimes, the real reason for silence has absolutely nothing to do with stress, but rather something quietly deteriorating right within the dynamic itself. Emotional safety is the feeling of being oneself without any fear of being judged, criticized, or misunderstood. This is literally the invisible bedrock of any healthy relationship. But here's the thing. This safety doesn't just vanish overnight. It slowly fades through really small, seemingly insignificant moments. Maybe they shared something super personal and felt completely ignored. Or maybe they felt constantly interrupted. Or a joke embarrassed them way more than anyone realized. Together, all these tiny little moments quietly change exactly how secure someone feels.
When emotional safety fades in what really should be a warm, comfortable environment, why do people pull away instead of just talking about it? Simply put, silence feels way easier than confrontation. Difficult conversations are just uncomfortable, right? So instead of expressing hurt or admitting they feel insecure, people choose shorter replies. They slowly become quieter. They appear super distant, acting entirely as a shield to protect themselves.
Section 4. The avoidant attachment style, when closeness triggers distance. This section explores how childhood patterns deeply influence emotional responses as relationships deepen.
This reason often completely surprises people, mainly because it feels incredibly counterintuitive to how we normally assume human connection works. Avoidant attachment style is a psychological pattern where individuals instinctively create distance as a relationship becomes emotionally deeper. People with this pattern might really truly enjoy spending time with others, but when emotional vulnerability increases, it triggers an automatic defense mechanism. They aren't trying to be hurtful at all, and you haven't done anything wrong. Closeness simply makes them deeply uncomfortable.
Let's break this down. For someone with a secure attachment style, closeness equals connection. It feels great. But for the avoidant view, distance equals control. Space feels safe. This completely explains why someone can seem incredibly engaged and super interested one week and then completely unavailable the very next. To a securely attached person, this feels sudden and totally confusing. But to the avoidant person, they're just relying on an automatic defense mechanism they've utilized for years, often without even realizing it. They still genuinely care, but they really struggle to stay emotionally open.
Section 5. Weight of unspoken resentment, the compounding pebbles of hurt. We discussed the heavy backpack of life stress earlier, but let's look at another kind of weight.
Now imagine adding tiny, unnoticed pebbles of hurt right into that backpack every single day. This is perhaps the most common reason for emotional distance. Relationships can suffer from dozens of small moments. It usually starts with step 1, a forgotten promise, feeling unappreciated, or always being the one who reaches out first. Each moment seems small, but quietly, step 2 happens, building emotional resentment. The weight just becomes too heavy to carry. The really surprising part is that people rarely announce they are actually hurt. Instead, step 3 takes over. They choose emotional distance and faded effort. The excitement drops entirely. And again, the distance began growing far before the silence was actually noticed by anyone else.
Section 6. Life transitions and changing priorities. The hardest truth. This is often the toughest pill to swallow.
This is arguably the most misunderstood reason for emotional distance. It isn't about resentment, and it isn't about burnout. It's just about life. A life transition involves shifts in a person's environment, new careers, new responsibilities, new life goals. These shifts naturally alter their relationships and their daily availability. The person you used to have hours to chat every single day suddenly barely has time to reply anymore. The massive mistake made here is assuming every change means rejection. But changing priorities do not equate to rejection. They simply signal that life is moving in a completely different direction. Honestly, not every relationship is meant to stay exactly the same forever.
There is a really powerful quote that says, "Healthy relationships aren't measured by constant attention. They're measured by genuine care when it truly matters." What an amazing reminder. A lack of constant replies does not mean a lack of care. When we reframe the experience from self-blame to genuine understanding, it completely changes how we view distant silence. Understanding these patterns absolutely stops the toxic cycle of blaming oneself for every single change that occurs.
So what might they be going through that we cannot see? The next time someone starts pulling away, don't immediately assume fault. Use these insights. Maybe they're emotionally exhausted. Maybe emotional safety is faded. Maybe their attachment style makes closeness difficult. Or unspoken resentment has unfortunately built up. Or, hey, maybe life is just taking them down a different path. Always remember, behind almost every person who pulls away, there is an unseen story. By replacing self-blame with empathy, true psychological understanding begins. Thanks for checking out this explainer.